Hello and welcome to the Pop Council Podcast, the show where we cover everything in pop culture. Each week on the show, we discuss topics in the geek world as well as various fandoms such as Disney, Marvel, DC, Star Wars, theme parks, and everything in between. I'm Jami, Philbrick, editor-in-chief of Movie Phone and member of the Hollywood Critics Association. We have a great show for you today. We will be discussing the new Obi-Wan Kenobi trailer. Deadpool 3 and Werewolf by Night have directors. Dune Part 2, casting, DC movies, move its 2022 slate, and beyond, and much, much more. But it wouldn't be Pop Council if I wasn't here with my co-host, Wendy Lee. Hey, Wendy.
Hello, hello. Happy Monday to you, Jamie. We're in March. Can you believe it? I just looked at it. It's March.
Yeah, we're just marching along.
Middle of March.
Yeah. The month is flying by. I'm already starting to think about April. So it's scary when time goes that fast. Did you get messed up by daylight savings time over the weekend?
My body did not want to get out of bed this morning because it's telling me it's a different time, and my alarm clock said otherwise. I was just like, oh, I have to get up. There are days that you just want to stay in bed, and usually it is Mondays for me.
I have a list of sort of common things that people don't have problems with that I have issues with, and daylight savings time is one of them. Daylight savings time is just one of those things. I'm like, this is barbaric. We don't need this anymore. Like, I don't know why we're doing this, but
there's a state that don't follow it. Arizona, I want to say.
Yeah, you could be right. I'm leaning towards Florida, but I'm not. It seems like it's something Florida or Arizona would do. Try to get.
No, Florida has it. At least when I was growing up there, we had it.
But yeah, there are. I believe you're correct that there are like 4 states trying to get rid of daylight savings time. So
I want that to be like just across the U.S. We don't need it anymore. We don't need it.
I agree. But you know what we do need? We need a third person to get this Pop Council going. So
let's go.
Without any further ado, coming back, our returning champion, Joel Amos. Hey, Joel, how you doing, buddy?
Hi, Joel.
I'm doing awesome. Hello, Wendy. Hello, Jamie. Thrilled to be back. Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, how was your weekend?
It's pretty good. Pretty good. First visit with mom since the pandemic. It's been kind of nice. Yeah, it's been over 2 years. So she flew in from Lynchburg, and she's upstairs watching us live right now on YouTube.
Oh my god!
Oh, hey, Mama Amos!
Wait, pressure's on. Mom's watching. We're on our best behavior.
Hey, Joel, I know it's been a while since you've been on the show. Remind everyone what you do and where they can check out your work.
I am the senior editor-in-chief, whatever you want to call me, for themoviemensch.com. Where we do reviews, interviews, trailers, and basically anything movie news. But we're drifting into TV now too, because isn't everybody? And TV is basically just a 10-hour movie broken up into 10 episodes. So I figure why not cover that now too. So I'm at Joel D. Amos on Twitter, at the Movie Mensch also, and I'm also a member of the Hollywood Critics Association, a founding member, believe it or not. So I've been there since the beginning.
There you go.
Yes.
Excellent. Yeah, I knew you were just in town for the HCA Awards, about 2 weeks ago? So that was awesome to have you here and get to see you.
That was cool.
Did you have fun?
I had a blast. I think I had too much fun.
we all may have. Well, all right. Well, let's just jump right into some of these topics that we have to talk about this week. And obviously last week we had there was actually a Disney Business Day kind of thing for the shareholders, and a couple of big things dropped out of that, but probably the biggest was the trailer for Obi-Wan Kenobi. We also got some stills, so here we can see Ewan kind of just sitting off. I think that there's a scene in the trailer that shoots from him watching young Luke growing up to him over in the cave. And I'm thinking this is sort of the reverse of that, but it's hard to kind of tell from the photo. Also wonder who's that little, there's something or something next to him. I don't know if that's like a shadow off in the distance or if there's like a little robot buddy next to him. You never know in the Star Wars world what that could be. And then we also got a look at this guy, our villain. And I believe this is based, there's a lot of assuming that this is Rupert Friend. I don't think it's been confirmed yet that this is Rupert Friend, but most people on the internet think that this is Rupert Friend we're seeing here. We know he's in the show. And I believe, Wendy, you probably have a better idea of who this actual character is, because I believe it's a character from Rebels, correct?
Yes, we've seen them in the animated. It's the Grand Inquisitor. I don't know if it's
Right.
the exact same Grand Inquisitor, because some time does pass from the Clone Wars to where Obi-Wan Kenobi is now. But regardless, they have filled the trailer with all the Inquisitors. We see the seventh sister, we see the fifth brother. So it's kind of interesting when I saw this trailer, expecting it to be like, 80% Obi-Wan, 20% everything else. And then I feel like it's a pretty even split. So it kind of tells us that the Inquisitors are going to be taking a pretty big part in this show, and that, their job is to find Obi-Wan or Jedi in general.
Find the Jedi,
yeah. And Obi-Wan's gonna try and stay hidden. What was cool was for me at the very, one was when the Duel of the Fate kicked in, and that music just really gets everybody going. And two, at the very end, it's so subtle that I would have missed it if my husband didn't say something, but Vader's breathing kicking in at the end as the title card went up. I was like, oh, that's right. Almost forgot that Hayden Christensen is back as Vader. So it begs the question that do they face-to-face meet in this series? Because I feel like because of how we saw it go down in A New Hope, that seemed like their first and last meeting, not first, but first meeting since he's become Vader, and last meeting, if you will. So sorry for spoilers.
Yeah, spoiler alert for
if anyone hasn't seen A New Hope.
I agree with you. So it's interesting, how they're going, because like you have to have you and Haydenson meet in a scene together. Like you can't like bring him back as Darth Vader and not put them together. So then the question becomes, is it, a present day scene, or is it some sort of flashback that they do? I feel like we'd feel as a fan somewhat cheated if it's just like a flashback. Like we want to see them meet now. And then of course that does throw into question, like, they're meeting in the original film. Like, how does that get retconned if they meet now? And the way I kind of look at it, like, I don't think I'd have a problem if they do end up meeting now in this series, because what the Alec Guinness version of Obi-Wan said to the Mark Hamill version of Luke Skywalker in the first movie has already been changed, right? That's already been moved a little bit. We know that, his father didn't die, right? So we know that whether, the screenwriters just didn't know enough about the full story at the time, or didn't include it in the movie, or the actor, whatever it was, or maybe, in this sort of retcon version, that Alec Guinness version was purposely lying or keeping truths from Luke. I think there's enough room there that we can kind of move. And so when Obi-Wan and Darth Vader say, this is the first time we've met, since before, or whatever, and whatever the line was, I think there's room to sort of move that a little bit and fudge with it. There's a way that they could meet in this series that I think wouldn't affect that line from the first movie. Does that make sense?
Yeah,
sort of
absolutely.
Way of saying it, Joel. But I really did enjoy the trailer. I do think that I would have liked to see a little bit more Obi-Wan in the trailer. I love seeing the other stuff, but I feel like that scenario you gave was more 20 Obi and 80 everything else. So I would like to see a little bit more him. And of course, I understand why we're protecting, however Hayden Christensen appears in the series is the big, that's Andrew Garfield and Tobey Maguire, right? So we're going to keep that as much of a secret. While it's not much of a secret, but we're going to keep it as hidden as we can leading up to it. So I get that. Joel, what were your thoughts on the trailer, and what did you think of of the different moments and how Hayden will sort of unfold in all of this.
Well, my first reaction was it's about freaking time. This has been a story, a character that's been in the rumorville landscape forever, it seems like. But fate is a funny thing. And I think they were having a hard time trying to make a movie out of this one character. And what would it be, or where would it take place? But as previous Star Wars shows like Book of Boba Fett and The Mandalorian proved, the longer storytelling format is now accepted both by outlets that put out the shows and audiences in the form of 10 half-hour to long shows. So I think fate is a funny thing. I think that we've wanted this for a long time as fans of Obi-Wan and in particular Ewan's performance. But it took the arrival of Disney Plus and the success of The Mandalorian and Boba Fett to allow us to have a show like this. So that's kind of the first thing. In terms of the Hayden Christensen aspect, I look at it kind of like, maybe not quite, but it's almost like the surviving Beatles. Like when I saw Paul McCartney at Dodger Stadium a couple years back, and I knew it was Ringo's birthday, and my friend who I went with kept saying, they take it very seriously, that the two of them only perform together on the most rarest of occasions because they know how special it is. And I feel like, and then Ringo came out and played. And so I think this is like that moment. And I think that they're going to choose it wisely. I think it's going to, after it happens, we're going to look back on it and we're going to think, oh, that was really smart. And I think it's also something that they're probably going to tease to stretch this out into a second season. I think particularly the emphasis on the breathing that you mentioned, Wendy, at the end of the trailer tells us that Vader is going to be a huge part of this. The question is, how is he going to fit in? And I think that's one of the more exciting aspects of this trailer is it just kind of shot the anticipation level through the roof.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And I love it. I love that. I mean, obviously this is something, as you mentioned, Joel, like has been in the works for a long time. And I think, basically probably since Revenge of the Sith, fans have wanted to see Ewan kind of reprise the Obi-Wan role. And I love that they waited, whether they waited on purpose or just, that's the way it kind of came together and Disney Plus and all that. But I love, he's not too far off. I mean, probably 10 or 15 years off from being the age Guinness was in the original Star Wars, maybe 20 years off. And so like, I love the fact that we're getting to see him older now, and rather than like, him being a 30-year-old actor trying to play older. Like, it's almost like these characters, and even seeing Joel Egerton in it, you know what I mean? It's like, oh, he's now almost the right age to be the uncle of Luke Skywalker, right? And so like, I like seeing these actors sort of, lack of a better term, grow into these roles. And so, yeah, I mean, I'd love to see Obi-Wan. Now, I don't know that there's going to be a second season of this. I with all these Disney Plus shows, I sort of wait until I hear an announcement. Although, with Mandalorian, we got a second season. So with that, at least with the Star Wars shows, they do a little bit more with the second seasons. But I'd love the idea of, obviously we don't know what this story arc is going to be, but assuming we know Obi-Wan's going to live, right? So assuming that happens, that I would love to see more kind of old man Obi-Wan stories leading up to, New Hope. As Ewan gets older and can kind of fill that. I mean, I would love that. Now, whether Disney and Ewan and all the other fans want to see that, that's another question, but I would love that. I mean, would you want to see, Wendy, and obviously this hinges on what season 1 is and how it resolves, but I mean, is this a series you'd like to see keep going on? Like, for me, Boba Fett's done, right? Like, I don't need a second season. They barely had enough to fill one season. They had to go to Mandalorian. So what do you think, Wendy, about a potential second season of Obi-Wan? Or do you think that they can fill it, kind of fill his story in one season?
So here's the thing is, selfishly, I would want 2 seasons of this just because we how you said, a lot of us have been waiting for whether it be an Obi-Wan movie. We're not getting that, but we're getting the series. That's fine with me because, instead of just 2-hour thing, I can get several hours of, Ewan McGregor as Obi-Wan. I do wonder, though, because there is a bit of a timeline on it, time is going to continue to move through this series, and we know where it ends with A New Hope. So it's really how far they want to take us through these timelines in this season, and if that warrants a second season. I think the fans are going to watch regardless, because it's not just any Star Wars show, it's Obi-Wan Kenobi. Probably one of the most well-known Star Wars characters because he's one of the originals. So selfishly, I would prefer to see 2 to have it more fleshed out. I feel like if we just get a one and done season and it's only 6 episodes, and the Disney Plus shows, the times kind of vary.
Right.
We can take Boba Fett for an example. Yeah, like some of them 37, some of them 57. We don't know what we're going to get.
Right.
So overall, let's just say like each show is, 30. That's like, to me, that's not enough time to flesh out his story. And I don't want it to be shortened or cut things out that would matter for the fans to see. I imagine that they're going to take a lot of care of this property because it's not just, again, any Star Wars character. I mean, they're all important, but it's Obi-Wan. So I feel that, do they usually wait for like a fan reception to greenlight a second season, or if that's kind of already determined?
No, I mean, my guess is that a second season announcement would come after the series premieres. But also with Star Wars and Marvel and Disney Plus, you never know. Like, there's not
you never know
a fast and loose rule like there are, with other films and TV projects where they want to announce it right away while it's still in theaters or while it's still premiering. So, they kind of drum up that excitement. Disney Plus doesn't need to drum up excitement for Marvel and Star Wars. So
Right.
I feel like, they kind of make their decisions as they go along. I mean, I think with like WandaVision, we sort of were told like this is probably going to be a mini series, like this is going to be a one-off. And like with Loki, I don't remember when they announced season 2. I feel like it was partway through season 1.
I think so too. So I guess we will find out. But in my personal opinion, 6 episodes feels a bit short, and I think they have time for at least one more season before they go into A New Hope.
And obviously, this all hinges on Ewan's participation and his willingness to participate. Clearly, he was interested and willing to participate in this one. Would he be interested in a second one? Maybe, this first season is sort of a palate taster for him in a sense to see, like, do I want to spend time? Murphy wants to be on the show. Do I want to spend time?
Make me an Ewok, Dad.
Murphy, come here, buddy. Come here, pal. Come over here. Be on
Murphy
the show.
Wants to be on the camera and talk about Star Wars.
So, moving on, real quick to Deadpool and actually some directors' announcements. We've got Shawn Levy is going to direct Deadpool 3.
Yes.
Which should be no surprise since he just did Free Guy with Ryan Reynolds, as well as the absolutely terrific Adam Project. You know what, Wendy? Why don't you take it away while I try to settle Murphy?
Yeah, absolutely. So we're definitely seeing the team up between Ryan Reynolds and between Shawn Levy. First, like Jami said, we have Free Guy, and then most recently on Netflix, which, by the way, sidebar, it's a very, very fun, very entertaining film. Yes, it is about time travel. And yes, it is. Some parts are formulaic, but it's so much more than just that. So I encourage you guys to give it a watch. I think what a lot of people are wondering about this move to have Shawn Levy direct Deadpool 3 is that whether or not if this movie can be a hard R, and I don't see why they can't go that route. Just because Shawn Levy hasn't done a hard R movie doesn't mean Deadpool can't be his first. And I think what's really important is we are going to take a look at the actor director work relationship here. They've already done 2 movies together, one on a bigger scale. I mean, I think they're both pretty big scale, but one was released by Disney/Fox. The other is on Netflix. Both have a lot of action. And I think what I thought was really cool about the Adam Project is that there were a lot of emotional moments that we got to see from Ryan Reynolds, which we didn't get to see as much in Free Guy, a little bit in Deadpool 1 and 2. So I feel like as they continue to work together, they're finding, that how they're able to work, how they like to work together. So I think that's what's going to be most important for Deadpool 3. It's not really just about the rating, and it can be a hard R, is how the actor and the director can speak each other's language because they're collaborating on, 2 films already. So I'm very much looking forward to the team up for Deadpool 3. I actually just tweeted about it. I was like, yeah, I'm excited for it.
Yeah, well, first of all, thank you for, while I was settling Murphy, to take that away. I completely agree with you. Obviously, Ryan likes working with Shawn. Shawn's a great director. They've made 2 really good movies together. I love Free Guy. I loved Adam Project even more than Free Guy. And that's not putting down Free Guy, but they're both really, really good. I was never a huge Shawn Levy fan. The Night at the Museums, The Cheaper by the Dozen, The Pink Panthers. His early stuff was just. But Real Steel was where I first started to think, oh, there's something else that this guy can do. And then certainly with this series of films, and he also did a really nice comedy drama with Tina Fey and Jason Bateman and Jane Fonda. It was called Where I Leave You, I think. It was a nice family movie. So he can do more serious stuff. For me, it's sort of about the action, because David Lynch was such an action-oriented director, and the action is such a big part of both Deadpool 1 and 2. And well, obviously, Shawn, there's a lot of action in Free Guy. There's a lot, there were a lot of visual effects in Night at the Museums and all that, and Adam Project. We haven't really seen him do sort of the hardcore fight scenes and that kind of stuff that we're used to in Deadpool. But the comedy and the action and the humor and all that he's got. I think the hard R question is, that's really a question for Disney, right? I think he can make it. Will he be allowed to? Will he and Ryan be allowed to go full R rating for this film? Deadpool 2, there was even an NC-17 version put out on disc later on Blu-ray and DVD. So, I think fans are going to be disappointed if they don't get, especially for the third Deadpool, the full hardcore Deadpool that they got from the last 2 versions. If it's some sort of a watered down Disneyized version, I think you're going to get a lot of complaints. And I'm not saying that Levy will definitely deliver that, but it's in his wheelhouse to deliver that if that's what the studio wants. So I'm hoping that this decision was really worked out with Ryan and Shawn and everyone, so that they can kind of come to an understanding before they make the movie and then have issues with, no, you can't do that. Joel, what are your thoughts on Shawn Levy taking over the Deadpool franchise?
I actually think it's a match made in heaven. I really do. I think it's a perfect next step for Shawn. Obviously, as you guys have discussed, he's got a great relationship with Ryan Reynolds. Let's not forget he also did Stranger Things, which is a phenomenal show. And I think he's directing 8 of the episodes of the upcoming season. And so, there's a lot of variety to what he can do. But I think the big thing here is the relationship between the director and the star, but also the fact that this is the first Deadpool since the Disney merger. So I think a lot of people are going to be keeping an eye on this thing. Disney has said in the past they're just going to let Deadpool let his freak flag fly, and that they're going to be hands off on this. Let's see if we keep them to that word, because there are some. Yeah, it's not like we see a lot of decapitations in Disney movies, and we do in Deadpool movies. So it's going to be interesting to see how that plays out. And I think Shawn Levy is a perfect person to bridge that in a way that he can go a little harder R for himself, but yet he can still ground it in such a way that will make Disney happy.
Yeah, and it's interesting too because if Disney's trying to bring Deadpool into the MCU family, they don't even have they can't even show Deadpool 1 and 2 on Disney Plus, right? They have to put them on Hulu. So I think they need to figure out, like, if the MCU is going in a bit of an R rating direction, how they're going to kind of brand it and put it into what they've already done. But Wendy, I also wanted to ask, and we'll throw a little audible here. Did you happen to see, going around in the last week or two, there was production design artwork from Shang-Chi that showed that Deadpool was originally going to be in the fighting scene. You were going to see him in the background fighting the character that Carrie Coons played in Endgame. Right?
Yeah, Proxima
I'm
Midnight.
not sure how that works because she died.
Yeah, but she was maybe an MCU stuff,
right?
Not
Maybe
MCU,
an
but multiverse stuff. Yeah,
or something, right? And then Deadpool. So I don't know. I was just curious if you saw that and what were your thoughts about the idea that maybe Deadpool could have made his first appearance in Shang-Chi.
I haven't seen that, but that would have been kind of cool there. That honestly would have maybe even another post-credit scene, because you know how the Marvel likes to do those. We go back into that nightclub, Fight Club, and see, like, that would be completely insane. I would not have minded. I probably would have stood up in the middle of the theater and screamed.
Yeah, I would have loved that. I don't know how it would have been explained into the. I mean, I think the Deadpool part actually you don't need to explain, because you either you get it or you don't. The proximity part, I don't know how you explain how he was. That would probably have caused a lot.
Yeah, that would have been weird, because she for sure was not. She didn't survive Endgame.
Right.
So.
Yeah, and even the old version of her didn't survive because she got dusted away by.
I think they all did. So who knows who on Dusted somewhere.
It's
I also wanted to add
character that they would have wanted to bring back too. Like, that's an interesting choice.
I loved her in the movies. I thought she was great. I wanted a little bit more of her. Yeah, she was fantastic.
Yeah, what were you going to say, Wendy?
I was just going to add, MK, our viewer is chiming in here, who says, I am fairly sure that, in the comments, I am fairly sure that Feige confirmed the next Deadpool would keep its R rating in an interview a while back. So I just wanted to, I think Disney is aware of what Deadpool has been and what fans would like it to be. And on top of, Kevin Feige's comment about keeping it rated R, he's also commented about the next coming, and I know it's a Disney Plus show, so it's not really the same as theatrical, but he did say for Moon Knight, they're not going to be pulling any punches, which means I think they're slowly, surely maybe tiptoeing towards that direction, especially with the Marvel Netflix shows being added to the Disney Plus carousel. So I think, they're starting to say to their audience without really saying it, like, there's more mature content, rated M for mature content coming to Disney Plus.
That's awesome.
Is Deadpool 1 and 2 on Disney Plus?
Is what?
Deadpool 1 and 2 on Disney Plus? No.
No.
Okay.
They may be on Hulu. I'm not sure where they're streaming right now. And I know some of, like, Logan isn't, but Wolverine is. So, but the Wolverine was sort of like a hard PG-13, and then Logan went straight R. So they've kept anything R off of Disney Plus for sure, for the time being. So yeah, it'll be interesting. We'll see what happens with that. And then we also actually have some other director news. Friday sort of dropped 2 Marvel director stories. We knew that there was going to be a Werewolf by Night Disney Plus Halloween special, likely this year or next. And composer Michael Giacchino has been selected, or at least that's the rumor. You like that, Murph? That he's okay? The composer, the great composer, is, and he has directed before, but this will be his first directorial work with Marvel. So, Joel, what do you think about Michael Giacchino taking over Werewolf by Night? Joel?
Again, I think this is a good next step for an artist. But yes, I'm right here. Hello, can you see me?
Yes, we can see you.
Okay, I think it's a good next step for him. I mean, it's really crazy to wrap your head around, though, because I mean, he is such a gifted composer, like insanely gifted, and there's nothing he can't compose for. And we haven't seen a whole lot of composers morph over to directors like we do actors morphing over to directors. So it'll be interesting to see how that translates those talents. But you know, orchestrating a score to the action, it's kind of director-ish, you know. So I feel like it's a natural fit, and I think this is a great, perfect property for him. Kind of cut his teeth,
Mhm.
kind of get further into this, and again, I think it's a match made in heaven, and I think the big he would do for his own show. I mean, or is that just too many hats?
Mm. I wonder if like he'll also compose the music. He's like, I will direct
Yeah.
and I will also be the maestro.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting. I think that he's wanted to direct for a while. I know that there was a movie or I don't know if it was a short film or
Yeah, it
something
was
I
like a
saw
short
on
film
YouTube.
and
Yeah, is that what it was with
like
Patton
a
Oswalt?
animated something. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think
Yeah, I mean,
so.
he's obviously got a great relationship with Disney. He's done Marvel, Star Wars, Pixar. I mean, he's done pretty much everything that they have over there. So I think it's an interesting choice. And the fact that it's just sort of like a Halloween special kind of gives, so it's sort of like he's making a movie, but it's not the pressure of like a big theatrical movie. It's just sort of a Disney thing, almost a backdoor pilot in a sense, I'm assuming, for something more Werewolf by Night in the future. We don't really know which of the Werewolf by Night characters it's going to be focused on, but there's also obviously Moon Knight made his first appearance in the comic books in Werewolf by Night, so there's some connection with some of the other characters that we know are coming out. Wendy, what are your thoughts about like maybe Moon Knight? At some point, is there a chance we could see a little bit of that teased in Werewolf by Night? Maybe this is the origin story, and then we sort of tease where they could go in the future together.
I mean, that'd be really cool because everything is in the same universe, and that's what Marvel has spent the last 20 plus movies building up to what we have today. So I love that shows, Halloween specials, and movies are all kind of joining forces. And just because you may only see a character, you met them only through a Disney Plus show, doesn't mean that they can't show up in an MCU movie and vice versa, which, typically usually blows everybody's mind. So I am very curious about how Werewolf by Night is going to be. I don't know too much of the source material, but I am excited. I'm excited that Michael Giacchino is kind of taking a shot at directing, a Halloween special for this property for Marvel. Like, I think that's really cool because I don't believe many composers kind of walk the director route. Maybe you can say that for John Carpenter, but I can't really think of anybody else. Like, if you guys know, let me know. But I think that's really cool. I think it's really great when creative people gets the opportunity, and I can't wait to see what he's gonna do with it because, again, like you both have said already, he's fantastic at the music stuff. It's fantastic. A lot of iconic. I think the Batman track has been in my head for days.
Yeah, that's a good call. Not many composers. John Carpenter is a good, but that's sort of the reverse,
The
right?
other
A director
way.
becoming a composer. I want to say John Ottoman was a composer on the X-Men movies, but he was also the editor. So he wasn't a director, but he was the film editor and the composer on the same movies. So that's a little
cool.
bit, but yeah, there hasn't been anything that I can think of like Michael, like this.
No, not like this.
Yeah, and I think it's a good marriage. And it'll be interesting to see. We also have Blade and Black Knight and a lot of these other sort of mystical characters coming in. So it'll be interesting to see. And then Joel, I don't know if you know, but obviously Werewolf by Night is based on a comic from the 70s, but there's also been a revamp comic recently by Taboo from the Black Eyed Peas and Ben Jaganoff, who is a friend of the show and has been on the podcast. And there is a character in the comic books named Dr. Philbrick. Now, I don't know if Dr. Philbrick, he looks like someone familiar to me. I don't know who. But we can only hope that that he will as well make it into the Werewolf by Night film. I think Bradley Cooper would be.
We'll run at the upcoming comic conventions. I feel like you should just cosplay as that character.
I should cosplay him. No, I should have a booth, and I could sell that shot for $5. And yeah, exactly.
Make some money.
We had some big casting this week. Obviously, it's nice to know that Dune 2 is going to happen because they are casting actors to play the roles that did not make it into the first half of the book, which was the first movie. So we got Austin Butler will be Fedi Rothu. Am I saying that right? But that's the character that Sting played in the David Lynch version of Dune. And then Florence Pugh will play Princess Erlin, who was played by Virginia Madsen in the David Lynch film. So there have been a lot of talk about who is going to play the Sting role, and I think Harry Styles was a pretty good guess. That was a good fan casting until, of course, we saw him as Thanos' brother in Eternals. I think that stopped any shot of him appearing in Dune Part 2. But yeah, Austin Butler is an interesting choice to me because it seems like he's sort of like the young hot actor, right? He's kind of like the big thing right now. Like we're going to see him as Elvis this year. And it's one of those castings where like, you know, if Elvis is a huge hit, then you've got a big star, you know, in this role in Dune 2. If it's not, then it's like the Solo movie, you know what I mean? And the actor that played Han Solo, his career is sort of dead on arrival. And so I don't know. It's interesting. I think it's a little bit of a risk in the sense that, I mean, I don't think anyone's expecting Elvis to come out and be a huge flop, but if it were, then that's hurts any star power he has coming into this role. But if it's not, then, you know, it actually adds a lot to this actor that everyone will now associate with Elvis Presley, playing the role that Sting played. So, and then Florence Pugh, I mean, I love her. She's amazing. So loved her in Black Widow and Hawkeye and Fighting with My Family. And so like, I got no problem. I mean, quite frankly, I don't know who else you would have gotten to play the princess. Like she's the right actress at the right time to do it. So Joel, let me start with you. Your thoughts on Austin Butler and Florence Pugh taking on these very iconic roles?
I think we're seeing it again. I brought it up earlier with Obi-Wan. Fate is a funny thing, you know, and I think that the timing, like you said, I mean, who else could play this role other than Florence? There's very little that she can't do. I loved her in Midsummer. I mean, I can't think of Little Women. I mean, she's just all over the place. So I think she's a perfect person to play this. And in terms of Austin, I don't know how Elvis is not a hit. Now, I don't want to put the cart ahead of the horse here, but there are very few trailers that caused the buzz that I saw after that Elvis trailer dropped for an original property, let's say. Like with superhero movie, people are already excited. You've got them already, but like this Elvis movie was a question mark. But then the trailer came out, and there are a lot of people out there that are very excited about it. And even in that little 2 to 3 minute spot, he was incredible. So, and I think you need somebody that could play Elvis to play that role in Dune. And so I don't think it's a stretch. And I think both of these castings is pitch perfect. And it gets me very excited for Dune 2. I mean, if I wasn't already excited.
Yeah, absolutely. Wendy, what were your thoughts on this casting?
I think it's very much the same as Joel's. I just to also hear any sort of movement happening for Dune 2 makes me really happy, because I remember going into Dune 1 really not knowing much about it. I, hadn't read the book. I'm reading it now. And being completely just in love with part 1. And then I remember before they had announced that part 2 was going to be greenlit, I was worried. I was like, but what if it just ends here and we just never find out? I have to read the book to find out. So to see that there's movement on it, that they're casting, and to see that it's these 2 actors makes me really, really happy. I'm a huge fan of Florence Pugh. I think the first movie I ever saw her in was Fighting with My Family. And then after that, Little Women, Midsummer, obviously Black Widow. I just really enjoy her in everything that she's been in. So to echo Joel's thoughts, I think it is the right time for these right actors, and these are the right roles for them. And the both of them just look like they fit.
Yeah.
They fit into the aesthetic that has been built for Denis Villeneuve's Dune. So I'm excited for this. I honestly wouldn't need a trailer even to go see this movie. I'm already invested. The movie already has my money.
Well, there was a trailer. It was
happy.
the first film. The trailer was the first film for this film.
The long extended trailer.
Right. Yeah, and I guess the question the only question left to answer is, will we see Austin Butler in Sting's leather Speedo? I mean, that's the question, right? And I'm sure there's a lot of people excited for that.
It's got to happen.
It's good.
I mean, it's one of the most legendary things to come out of David Lynch's movie. They've got a nod to the Sting.
He's just got a.
I can't see Denis not making any nods to David Lynch's version, but we'll see. I think it's good casting, and I think it's great to sort of have confirmation that Dune Part 2 is coming and is in the works. So especially with it's having quite a good award season, especially in the technical categories, and I assume that will continue through the Academy Awards. So it'll be good for them to get this going. So there was another huge story this past week, and that is that DC. Well, Warner Brothers is moving their entire DC slate for the rest of the year. So the Batman, they were supposed to have 5 DC movies open in 2022. The Batman opened on time as scheduled. We are going to see DC League of Super Pets moves from May 20th to July 29th. And then we have the Black Adam, which is moving from July 29th to October 21st. So both of those films you'll still see this year, just a little later than we were expecting. Then the big disappointment for me, I know Wendy's been saying that the Batman was her most anticipated film of 2022. My most anticipated film was another film starring a Batman, or possibly 2 Batmen, but it is titled The Flash. And unfortunately, it is running. See what I did there? From November 4th, 2022 to June 23rd, 2023. So we're going to have to wait till next summer to see how The Flash and General Zod and 2 Batmen and a Supergirl all get together. We then have, unfortunately, another move out of 2022. Aquaman and the Lost Kingdom was supposed to be released on December 16th, and it will instead move to swim to March 17th, 2023. Now, a lot of people are saying because the December 16th date is also the release date for Avatar 2, which will have a lot of underwater sequences, that Warner Brothers decided to blink in their sort of game of chicken and move Aquaman away. But interestingly, they are moving another film into that spot, which is Shazam! Fury of the Gods, which is going to move up from June 2nd, 2023 to the December 16th, 2022 date. So a lot of moves there. Very interesting. Like I said, interesting that that Warner Brothers decided not to put Aquaman up against Avatar 2. I mean, that's interesting to me, because you're talking about a movie. I had a friend say to me recently, like, is Avatar still a thing? Like, because it's been so long, But there were 10 years between Titanic and the first Avatar, and no one thought that James Cameron would make the highest grossing film of all time a second time, and he did. So if I learned anything, it's you don't vote against James Cameron. And maybe that's what Warner Brothers is doing here, is saying, let's not vote against James Cameron. But then if that is the case, then it's interesting to me that they're just sort of dumping Shazam in the spot that they're worried about. But it is definitely alternate programming. You know, that's a family. I mean, I guess Avatar is a family film as well, but Shazam is a much more comedic family film. So not really as sort of serious in a sense as maybe Aquaman and Avatar will be. So Wendy, let me start with you. I mean, what do you make of all of these moves? Any of the moves you want to talk about in particular? Any of the films? Like, what are you thinking here?
I do think it's interesting. This happened kind of just abrupt, and it's not just like one or two films. It's a whole, like, I think 5 films that are being moved. So it's not quite as like much of a Tetris game, or what is it where you like try to like shuffle those pieces into the puzzle, because Marvel has like that very established timeline of where certain things needs to happen before something else. I think DC/WB has a little bit less to worry about that, because they don't have an exact established, at least they haven't shown us yet, even though Aquaman and the Flash kind of do come from when we first met them in Justice League, but there's no exact specific timeline where these sit. Plus the Flash, as we know, play with time. So I'm not worried about like, oh, are these stories going to make sense if one comes before another? I am just I was ready for the Flash, even though I was, Batman was one of my most anticipated films of this year. I was very curious on where they were going to take the Flash. I thought the trailer that they showed in the DC Fandom from last year was really cool. We got that quick unveil of, well, actually, we didn't even get to see it, but of Keaton's, Batmobile. We got to see him in the trailer amongst other people who is going to be in that movie. Like, that's just going to be a really fun watch. So for that, I am a little bummed, but I feel like, things get moved for a reason. And if that gives production and editing more time to finish out their movie and make everything better, then I'm here for it, because I would rather wait and have it be really, really amazing than have it be rushed and then we sit there and complain about it, because I don't want to do that going into a film. So I will just have to exercise patience.
Yeah, good points. I agree absolutely. If any of these were moved for post-production reasons, then that's a very valid reason. So I completely agree with that. And also really good point on the fact that DC doesn't have the issue that Marvel would have if they start shuffling around their Marvel movies, because, while there is some version of a DC EU that still exists, we don't really know what it is, and they're reshaping it. And yeah, I don't see the moving of these films really affecting anything like that. But it is interesting after the Batman's release. And remember last year, all the DC films went directly to HBO Max. And the one thing that they kept saying is, we won't do this with the Batman. We won't do this with the Batman, which they didn't. They released it in theaters, and it's made a lot of money and has been extremely successful, which makes me question why we would then move the entire DC slate of the rest of the year when we just had such a monster hit on our hands. Like, you would almost think you'd move the slate if the Batman had underperformed, but it didn't, as far as I understand. So it's a weird move, and it's a weird timing, I think. Joel, what do you make of the timing of it, as well as just the move of some of these films in particular?
I think the stigma with moving dates has kind of gone away over the years. It used to be such a red flag. Like when they moved a date, it was like, oh no, there's trouble. There's going to be reshoots or whatever. But now it's not necessarily about the actual production. But what I would find very, very, very curious is just last week, James Wan tweeted a picture of his desk, and he's got about 6 monitors and 25 keyboards. I'm kidding, of course. And he's like getting ready to edit Aquaman 2. There's something a lot, this is going to be a really tight deadline. And then fast forward a few days later, and we find out that his movie has been moved, giving him more time. Now, does one have to do with the other? I don't know. I don't think you shift that many movies just because one guy is up against a deadline that he's not sure he can make. But I find it curious that Aquaman got moved, days after James Wan very publicly said that he was worried about whether he'd be able to finish it on time. And like Wendy said before, I mean, we don't want things rushed. The other thing is that, anytime you delay a film in this post-pandemic world, it's not necessarily a bad thing. I mean, the further we get away from this thing, the more people are going to go to theaters, and people will wait, for this movie. I think I'm with you guys. I'm super excited for The Flash, and I'm disappointed that I have to wait. But good things come to those who wait, somebody once said, and I think that all of this will be worth the wait.
Sorry, I muted because the dog was barking. It's also interesting what you were saying, Joel, because I think, we've heard a lot about Doctor Strange reshooting after the success of Spider-Man to sort of, maybe key off of some of those multiverse cameos. And, that obviously there's a whole slew of, rumors, Patrick Stewart and, whoever else might be in the film. And so while we don't know exactly what DC's plans are with the multiverse and sort of introducing that on their own side, more time gives them more time. Black Adam comes out. Maybe they want to get Pierce Brosnan in a cameo or The Rock in a cameo. And you know what I mean? Like, it gives them more time to be able to do reshoots down the road and add other characters, if they want to kind of make it a little bit more, more multiverse exciting. So yeah, more time is good. It's disappointing for those of us who are excited for 5 or 6 DC movies this year, but we'll just wait, and it's more for next year. And there's still no word. This didn't seem to affect Batgirl. So since that's an HBO Max film, it looks as if that will still be released this year towards the end, but we're still waiting for confirmation on an official date. We got a few minutes left in the show, so I'm going to just go with a grab bag here of a few other items that happened this past week. But in that Disney Day for the stockholders we were talking about earlier, where the Obi-Wan trailer hit, we also got our first look at Tom Hanks as Geppetto in director Robert Zemeckis' live-action version of Pinocchio. Obviously, the puppet there, the wooden boy, looks very much like he does in the I was going to say in the comic books, in the Disney, in the classic Disney animation. So yeah, it's interesting. As also we know there is also going to be a Pinocchio this year coming from director Guillermo del Toro. Obviously, that is going to be a much, one would assume, darker and different Pinocchio tale than the Disneyized version we're going to get. But Wendy, I know you're a big Disney fan. In this world of live action Cinderellas and Beauty and the Beasts and this one and that one, we knew it was only a matter of time before we would eventually get a Pinocchio. But are you excited for it? What does the photo make you think about, Hanks as Geppetto? And I believe Joseph Gordon-Levitt is going to be Jiminy Cricket, and the Good Witch is Cynthia Erivo, and then of course directed by Robert Zemeckis.
I mean, with this photo, I totally forgot that it was Tom Hanks who was playing Geppetto, and I had to kind of look, and I was like, "Is that Tom Hanks?" I'd completely forgotten about it because they put not just wig and facial hair on him, but I feel like there's a little bit of maybe prosthetic in the nose or something. I don't know. It doesn't it looks like Tom Hanks, but it also doesn't look like Tom Hanks, which is great because he's playing Geppetto. I am kind of surprised how closely they are making the puppet Pinocchio as close to what he looks like in animation. But again, that's cool because they have that as a source material. So why not just make it as close as you can make it? I think for Disney live action films, I'm usually, as a Disney fan, just in general, I'm usually excited about it, but I also exercise a bit of, like cautiously optimistic way of looking at it, because there's some Disney live action films that I was so excited for, and then I watched, and then it's not, I think maybe I hyped myself up a little bit too much. It didn't really meet my expectation. But with Pinocchio, I'm liking the cast. I think when you have Tom Hanks in the cast, that's really going to help elevate the film. So I'm looking forward to it. It's a really cute story. I wonder how close they will keep to the original animated, or if they will, make some changes on their own to make it work for a live action film. As in, are we going to see Monstro in live action? Are we seeing that? Probably, maybe. Yeah.
Well, yeah, it brings up a good question, which I'll pose to you, Joel, and please give me your answer as well as your thoughts on the photo and the film. But has Disney gone to the well once too often with the live action versions of the animated films? I mean, I know it's been a very lucrative market for them over the last 10 years or so, but at a certain point, you're running out of animated, and are you just making animated films to make live action versions of them later? It seems like they've gone to the, and it's worked out very well for them. But even, with Lion King and Beauty and the Beast, but not every one of them has been a huge hit. Cruella obviously had some issues because of the pandemic, and I think this Kenneth Branagh's Cinderella maybe didn't do as well as some of the other, certainly as Beauty and the Beast. But what do you think? Have they gone too often to this technique?
It's interesting. The film journalist in me would say, yeah, I think or give it a rest, or just space them out a little more. Don't go to the wells so quickly. But as a parent of an 8-year-old who loves Disney movies and loves Disney as much as I do, which I was so proud when she discovered that. She's been discovering the live action movies after seeing the original animated movies, and she loves them. And she loves them just as much, but in a very different way. So I think they're serving a purpose of bringing a story to a younger audience in a different way that they didn't get with the animated movie. And that, yes, this is about money. It's always about money. But in the end, I think, Disney makes movies like Pinocchio for kids and their parents who grew up watching the animated movie. And so I think that it's going to give us a different perspective on the story of Pinocchio. I don't necessarily think they need to go to that well again so quickly again, but judging by how much my 8-year-old is watching, the live action Cinderella, the live action Mulan, Disney knows its audience, and they know they're going to show up. So, and I also thought that getting this picture out there was kind of a first shot. Like, as you mentioned, we've got another case of Hollywood putting out the same movies around the same time. And so there's a race to see who can get out there first. And so Disney has struck first. So we'll see how that plays out over the next, 8-12 months.
Yeah, and it's interesting. I think you totally hit the nail on the head about your daughter. That's why these movies are made, right? They're made for kids, and the kids enjoy them. So yeah, absolutely.
Love them.
Real quick, lightning round. I just wanted to talk about the new Muppet series based on my favorite Muppet characters, Dr. Teeth and the Electric Mayhem Band. This will be on Disney Plus. It is going to star all of the lovely Muppets you see right there. It's going to focus on the band and hopefully have lots and lots of animal. He is my favorite Muppet. Wendy, what are your thoughts on a new Muppet series?
I mean, I think it's always cute when they do Muppet stuff. Like, you can't lose with Muppets. Like, who doesn't enjoy Muppets? It just, just
Except
wail
for that
and
ABC
fun.
series. Yes, they're almost always great.
Which one?
Oh, that was that awful series that
was like The Office.
they tried to sexualize the Muppets. So Fozzie had a
They're
girlfriend, and Kermit was dating another pig that wasn't Miss Piggy.
How dare he?
It was awful. They tried to sort of Park and Rec, Office, 30 Rock up the show. Miss Piggy hosted, so it was about Miss Piggy hosting her own late night talk show, and then it was sort of the workings around that show. Like Kermit was the producer and Fozzie was the announcer, and but it was awful. It was so awful.
Should I not look it up?
You don't look it up. You can. I mean, it's on Disney Plus, but it's terrible. The recent one that they did on Disney Plus, Muppets Now, was good because it was sort of the old version of the Muppet Show, but done, as podcasts. So it was cute. Like it was done well. But I mean, listen. The idea of doing something just about the band, I think, is great.
Yes.
And I think it's from the same team that did the Muppet Now show. So are you excited for that, Joel? What do you think?
Yeah. I mean, anything Muppets, I'm thrilled. I mean, we're talking a lot about Disney, but I feel like the Muppets has been kind of an underuse. You say they're going to the well too many times for other things, but I don't think they've gone to the well enough for the Muppets. So I was thrilled to hear about this, particularly because as a kid, I loved that band. I don't know why. There's an affinity for it. I think it's also Animal. I mean, the success of those Geico commercials with Animal, and I think they know that that really struck a chord. They got something here. I mean, this is gonna be fun to watch.
Yeah, I definitely agree. They've been underused since Disney has sort of, put them under their umbrella. Certainly underused compared to Pixar, Marvel, and Star Wars, the other properties that they own. But also, I think it's great that they're taking this opportunity. And the last thing they did, which was the Muppets Haunted House, was really, really good. That Disney Plus Halloween special last year, I thought was really good. So,
and they filmed it where the ride is too. They actually went inside which is really cool.
Hopefully it'll be on that same level. And we look forward to that. Well, that is all the time we have this week. I want to thank you for tuning in, our audience. I want to remind you that we are just one of the shows that the Hollywood Critics Association has launched on this network. So please push that button below, subscribe, tune into this video, tune in every week to Pop Council, which is on Mondays at 11 a.m. And as they say, check your local listings for all of HCA's wonderful shows here on our YouTube network. I want to thank, as always, Joel, a special guest. We have to thank Joel for coming. Thanks, Joel, for being our guest. Where can everyone check out your work?
Over at the Movie Mensch. I am the Movie Mensch, and I write about all kinds of movie stuff, TV stuff. So go on over there and check it out.
Awesome. And Wendy, we did it. We got through another week. Woohoo!
And with all the topics,
where they can check you out.
Thank you. You can find me on the socials, Wendy Lee Szany, on Instagram, just my name on Instagram, on Twitter. I'm on TikTok if you want to follow me for really random, very short content on TikToks. Just my name, Wendy Szany, no Lee in that one. And then on the YouTube's the Movie Couple channel, where we talk about various movies, trailers, and all that and more. And back to you, Jami.
And I'm Jami Philbrick. You can check me out at Instagram and at Twitter at Philbrick. Facebook at my name, and please check out moviephone.com for news, interviews, and reviews. And we will see you all next week on Pop Council Podcast. Till then, have a great week. Bye.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.